and spend some time with you talking about professional academic advising and what we've been up to over the last 2 years. In your departments, you've maybe heard people talk about our advisor or the advisors or the advising center. So, hoping we can spend some time with you this morning, just sharing where we've been and where we've come and where we're heading. So, we'll get started with intros. And I think kind of unique to this presentation is that sometimes the intros are the quickest part of a presentation, but our goal today is actually for you all to get to know us because we can be really important resources and really helpful people to know on campus. So my name's Andrea Hine. I've been in academic advising at NDSU for about 13 years. It was 20 years ago this week that I moved to campus as a first gen, very nervous student thinking I was going to major in pharmacy, living in North Weibel. That did not pan out, but I was ultimately successful. And I primarily work with the lead academic advisors, who you'll get to hear more from this morning, who then oversee the academic advisors that make up this team. So I will let each of us introduce ourselves.
Hi, I am Hope Ray, and I am the lead academic advisor for the College of Health and Human Sciences. I've been at NDSU in this role for 2 years. Previous to that, worked in the International Student Office and kind of came here by way of Oklahoma, did my graduate degree at Oklahoma State, where I worked in study abroad and did some work with academic advising there as well. Um, so yeah, I don't.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Janet Sundquist. I'm the lead advisor in the College of Business. And in the College of Business, we advise for all of the majors and we divide students' last name alphabetically. So I also advise the end of the alphabet, U through Z. I've been in higher education, variety of roles in academic advising and student support for over 15 years. And I'm going into my 6th year here at NDSU. Prior to that, I was across the river for almost 10 years, but gone to different schools, different student populations, spent a little time at UND, Mayville State, MSUM, and also here.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Almy-Josset, and I'm the lead advisor for the College of Arts and Sciences. I've been working in higher education for just about 7 years in a variety of roles, but my background is really in student success, so working with like academic counseling, coordinating tutoring and writing center programs. And I am returning to NDSU. I was previously here doing my master's degree, and I'm back as of March. And I am currently a PhD student in the Counselor Education and Supervision program as well.
And then you'll see on the screen too here our colleague Joel Hansen. He's the lead advisor for the College of Engineering and the College of Ag. Many of you may know Joel. He's been on campus for many, many years in academic advising and as part of the College of Engineering. His advising team spans advising for majors in both of those areas. He is starting the semester on medical leave, so if you do have anything in your colleges, please come to me and I will be your point of contact as the semester gets started. So hopefully you've all kind of identified who your lead advisor is, but would you mind sharing, faculty or staff in the room, kind of which areas you're connected with, which college?
College of Business. Oh, Kastner. College of Agriculture. I am College of Arts and Sciences.
Right.
Registered Arts and Sciences.
All right. Online folks, we will see if the chat can come up. And we'll catch you in a minute. So today we just want to kind of give you a big picture of where things have been with advising and kind of how we've gotten to where we are today. Really go in depth on what the role of these professional advisors, these staff members on campus are doing and how they are impacting student success. And then the transition from the professional to the faculty advisor. So we're not going to solve everything today. We could actually spend probably an hour on most of these topics themselves, let alone a half hour for everything. And then the role of the faculty advisor, so how you can kind of kick the year off strong, or as students transition from the professional advisor to you, kind of some easy first steps to do, and then hopefully leave some time for question and answer. So big picture, the Career and Advising Center, we actually do a lot beyond just advising. So again, please check out our website because we are the central career support and education for the entire campus as well. So definitely a lot that we won't get to talk about today, but with this new advising model, all of these professional advisors are part of the Career and Advising Center. Right. So I've been in my role since about 2012. And when I was hired, we had a few professional advisors already on campus. And if you're not familiar, what I mean by that is advising is their primary role. They are here to know policies, curriculum in depth, be very well connected to departments, the majors that they advise for, to really support those students. Over time, we kept adding advisors. Definitely saw the benefit of having staff members with dedicated time to do this work with students, was impacting the ability for those students to be successful. We at some point we kind of hit a roadblock. Um, Students were having a very inconsistent experience. You know, when first year students are getting started, they experience a lot of different shifts in their life. They're going through a lot of transitions. They have a lot of questions. They need a lot of support sometimes. And we were finding that students that didn't have professional advisors sometimes didn't know where to go. They were having a very inconsistent experience based on what their major was and whether there was a professional advisor there or not. And so in 2023, we had been advocating over the years to hire more professional advisors to do this work with students, not to replace faculty advisors, but to just really have that extra layer of support for these students. So in 2023, the institution made that commitment and we hired quite a few more staff members to join this team. And so now all first and second year students and new transfer students have one of these staff members and they report to the lead advisors who then work through the Career and Advising Center. We kind of call this, you know, centrally coordinated, decentrally delivered, because most of these advisors' offices are actually out in the colleges and departments that they advise for. So they're still able to form those good relationships with the faculty. All of our advisors have about 250 students, give or take, and that's by design so that they can be available and accessible to students when they need them. That was kind of the big piece, is that when students have questions, we don't want them to just throw their hands up in the air and walk away. We want them to get a response from somebody that cares about them. It's going to take the time to dig in. They might not have the answer, but they can hopefully connect the student with who does. And so again, not to replace the work that the faculty was doing, but it's a lot to expect somebody to keep up and be available with all of these changing policies, changing processes, gen eds, putting in permits, answering emails about wait lists, all of those things. But that is the role of these advisors, is to really be there for those students. So I'll leave you with this picture for a little bit. Shameless plug of my little buddy. So this all started, all of those new advisors came on board in July. I went on maternity leave. So there's my little buddy. He was like a week old. We came and visited campus. And then fast forward to now, he's 2. So this model, I will always know when we implemented and how old it is. And we're in the toddler phase right now, so it's still a little messy. He's very clean with the sheep on campus, but some quick wins, I guess, is that in that first year or so, we've seen about a 2% increase in the retention rate. And this fall is trending to be positive in that direction too. Kind of a random finding was that students who withdraw from one class are actually more likely to be retained than they previously were. And we really think that part of that is conversations with the advisors on campus. They don't need to just drop everything or, you know, drop multiple classes, fail multiple classes. It's really that developmental conversation that the advisors are having. There's a lot more happening on campus that's contributing to this as well, but the advisors are contributing for sure. And then anecdotally, there's a lot less coming to our office of no one's answering me, I don't know where to go, those types of things. Ever since I've been here, that's kind of been who primarily funnels my way, are just confused, lost students. And that has just drastically dropped over the years because there's somebody that they can at least start with. And then these advisors are very talented. What they're uncovering as hurdles that the students are experiencing is really helping to contribute to a lot of process change around campus with prerequisites, with wait lists, the advocacy that these advisors can provide for what the students are experiencing is really being uncovered at a very quick pace. And so that will be interesting to see how we can, you know, help contribute some of that may not know about. And so one takeaway is on the Career and Advising Center webpage, we have this Who is My Advisor page. So if you're working with a student that wants to change their major, wants to explore a minor, talk about a certificate, talk about a graduate program, at least the professional advisors are very clearly listed of what programs they work with. They'd be great starting places if you're unsure of where to go to. And then they can certainly help get the student connected with it, whether it be a faculty or program coordinator or anything. So, and then we all use a platform called Buys and Advise that you'll hear a little bit more about. And so on this page, there is a scheduling link that you can help students schedule with any of these advisors.
Yeah.
And so with that, I will pass it along to Caitlin to kind of tell us more about the work that we're doing and how we're making these impacts.
So the work of the advisors within the Career and Advising Center is really grounded in the philosophy of developmental advising. And so what this is it's a holistic and student-centered approach to advising. It's looking at the student as a whole human being, a whole person, and not just who they are show up in the classroom or what their grades are looking like. It also sees advising as an educational process. So there's teaching happening, there's learning happening. It's going both ways between advisors and students. It's also a proactive approach to advising. So rather than waiting for issues to pop up, advisors are being really intentional about what information they're presenting and at what time. And they're also taking into account the developmental stage of the student. So is this a brand new incoming first year student who needs information, or is this a junior or senior who's been here and has that experience? So again, presenting the right information at the right time, but then also with that is we are keeping a close eye on different indicators that help tell us that students might need extra support. So again, reaching out to students and not just waiting for them to tell us that something is wrong. And again, this developmental advising model really, like Andrea said, it supports retention, it helps students persist, it helps them build self-efficacy, and it also starts having those career conversations early on when they're here because students do have so much input into the advising process. So you can compare developmental advising to sort of the old school way of advising, which is prescriptive advising. So in prescriptive advising, the advisor was the expert. They were the ones handing the information to the students. These are the classes to take. Here's what you do. Go on your way. Whereas developmental advising, the advisor is facilitating the conversation. They're asking for students to have feedback and input into what they want to do. And the advisor helps facilitate and provide the information when necessary, but lets the students kind of be the guide in that. Again, in prescriptive, the student was just recipient, a follower of the information, versus now students are active in their advising conversations and active in their degree. Prescriptive advising is solely focusing on academics. So what are the grades that you're getting? Is that good enough to continue? Versus developmental advising, again, is taking a holistic view of the student and thinking about what's going on in their personal, their social life, their academic. How is that all contributing to what? Because we know that when students step in our office or step on campus, they don't just completely. Again, a goal for prescriptive advising is just course selection, what courses they're going to take. Versus now, we're thinking about development of the student and the success of the student. So really, this is a collaborative process and not one in just which the advisor is the expert and students get more say in their advising and their time at NDSU. So now with that, we are going to go into the role of the professional advisor.
Okay. At first, I thought I was hearing. Is it just me? So I was glad when everyone else started looking around. I felt relieved. So many of you probably already have or you will interact with advisors at different points, but you might not be familiar with the full kind of scope of our role. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time defining that and talking about some of our core responsibilities. So our primary focus is helping students succeed academically and then strategically guiding them through their academic journey and time here at NDSU. So, our main areas of expertise are understanding the curriculum, university policies, and then how different degree pathways work. And we also serve as a consistent point of contact for our students throughout their time here. And then we collaborate closely with faculty and other campus departments. And that's a broad range of departments, anywhere from the Office of Registration and Records to the Counseling Center to Disability Services. So, some of our core responsibilities, one is course selection and scheduling each term. But that's not just helping them pick their classes, check off the boxes of what they're fulfilling on their academic requirement report. It is more than that. We want to make sure that they're balancing their requirements, looking at electives. When are they taking those electives? What makes sense for them as far as what their plans are long term in their career path? And then a realistic workload. So, not only the workload of academically, but also what's going on in their personal life and what they can handle and be successful. And then we provide academic planning and degree mapping. And this is especially important for timely degree completion, and or if they're like have a more complex path. So sometimes we'll have students who are pursuing a double major or adding minors or certificates, or if they're looking at studying abroad, we're talking with them about when is a good time to study abroad, what makes sense with your requirements, and what are some maybe gen eds or other requirements that you can take when you do study abroad. And then a big part of our work is interpreting and applying university policies. So helping our students understand implications if they withdraw from a course, if they have to repeat a course, or if they're placed on academic alert. And then we monitor their academic performance. And we try to be as proactive as we can with that. So the sooner we can reach out to students and try and get them back on track, the better. And then we're a referral point as well, just for various campus resources. So again, tutoring, financial aid, counseling center, the whole realm. So we help students navigate the system, stay on track, and hopefully overcome obstacles to be successful with their time here. So I also want just to take a quick look here at when we typically interact with students. And so our first point of contact is during new student registration and advising. And so those appointments actually start kind of end of April, and they're still going on. So they'll keep going on here for a while until classes start. And this is where we help our incoming students with course selection, but we're talking with them about degree requirements, making sure they're meeting their prerequisites. Again, a balanced course load is important. And these appointments are really important because they are setting the tone for their transition to NDSU. And then in the fall, we continue to support them with new student check in appointments. And so those typically occur throughout the month of September. And so it's a time to connect with them and just check in, see how their transition to NDSU is going. Are they encountering any difficulties, whether that's academically, personally? Again, how can we connect them with appropriate resources? And we do talk with them at that time about requirements. They get a lot of information in that first appointment. So this is another opportunity to really go into a little bit more detail of requirements and do some planning long term for a 4-year graduation plan. And then we have our regular semester registration appointments, so spring, fall. And so those again, we're talking about degree requirements, adjusting their plans. So if they did fail or withdraw, what do we need to change, move around? And then also any special opportunities. So if they're looking at maybe an internship or again, study abroad, we explore those things with them. So we have kind of the standard check-in meeting appointments, but we're happy to meet with students at any time. And then just some additional meetings that we have. So one of them is related to the academic alert system. And so faculty can submit alerts for students, and we welcome those because, again, the sooner we know if a student is not attending class, not performing to a level that maybe they should be at that point, any general concerns academically with them, the better for us to know sooner so that we can reach out to them because we'll then reach out to the students, try and get them in. At that time, can talk about, again, connecting them with resources, if there's personal things going on, or maybe it's just they need some help with time management or some test taking strategies. So exploring those things. And then we also meet with our advisees who are on academic alert. And so we talk with them about what are their requirements that they need to do to either continue on alert or get back into good standing. So we invite those students in the first week of classes. And so we can hopefully start supporting them right away. And again, identifying what were previous obstacles, what are changes maybe they need to make. We can do an action plan with them, or just be a support or even some accountability for them, because sometimes that's what they need as well. And then students who are considering major changes, if a student is interested in another major, they meet with the advisor in that area. So if someone's interested in business, they would meet with one of the College of Business advisors. And we can then talk with them about the majors in our area, minors, certificates. A lot of times the question is, how much time is it going to add if I change my major? And so we'll look at what the classes they've taken, how those would apply to their new major and affect their timeline as well. And then any type of referrals. So these can come from faculty, staff, or even just other students we've had refer to advisors. So if you ever have a student who seems lost or overwhelmed or just unsure about something, please don't hesitate to connect them with an advisor. We're always happy to take those meetings. And then we also meet with prospective students. So that could be incoming students or transfer students, new transfer students. So we'll talk about our, again, degree programs that we advise for, maybe if they have transfer credits, how those apply. If they're a transfer student, usually again, they're wondering how long is it going to take me to finish my degree here? So looking at that information and then helping with any prospective visits. So Discover Days or Admitted Student Day, where often you can see us around at those things as well. And then any just as requested appointments. If a student ever has questions, we often say if they don't know where to start, maybe start with their advisor. We don't necessarily have, we for sure don't have all the answers, and we may not have the exact answer, but we'll help them find where they need to go. So we're a good starting point if a student has a question. All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin. And she is going to talk about the transition to the faculty advisor and some tools and resources that are helpful for advisors.
All right. So in general, students are assigned to professional advisors for their first 2 years on campus, and then they transition to a faculty member in their last 2 years. And that transition point specifically tends to happen around the ad drop period in a semester. So we are gearing up to send students along to faculty on September 4th after the ad drop deadline so that they can still work with their professional advisor to make any last minute changes to their schedule. However, it's not cut and dry or always black and white that students transition at the 60 credit mark or after their first 2 years. Sometimes there are special circumstances for late transitions. So new transfer students tend to work with an advisor right away, a professional advisor right away, even if they are past that 60 credit mark. Students on alert who might need that extra or additional support, or sometimes students who haven't passed key courses within a major stay with their professional advisor a bit longer. And this all varies by college and major. So for example, students in the College of Business work with a professional advisor all 4 years. Students in HDFS or students in architecture have a professional advisor for all 4 years as well. So again, professional advisors go through their caseloads at the end of each semester and determine who is going to transition to a faculty member. And then they help polish their degree plan so that the students who are transitioning are not coming empty-handed. They have an idea of what they'll be taking for their last few years or semesters at NDSU. And then the advisor will also help connect the student to their new faculty advisor. So there are different tools and resources that assist in the transition, that assist just in the advising process in general that are used by both professional and faculty advisors. So we're going to quickly talk through Bison Advise, a new system called Plan, the academic requirements report, and then degree audits.
All right. So I think that many faculty have heard about Bison Advise, but there's been kind of some have used it and some have not. But this is the primary means of connection between those lower division students and the professional advisor. It's where they can connect and make appointments with us. We store notes and communicate with them about the progress in their major. And it's also an access point to the plan tool that Caitlin will talk about in a moment, where they can access and view their 4-year plans. And so all advisors, faculty and professional, can create calendar availability in Bison Advise. They can view notes from advisors across campus, and that can be lots of different types of advising, not just academic advising, but TRIO, Rising Scholars, case management. They all put in information about students where they believe it's pertinent, that it may be helpful for other service units on campus to give that coordinated care to a student and help them to be successful. This should be its own point, but you can view statistics about their level of course engagement. So if a student's coming in, they say they're struggling, and you kind of are wondering what might be going on there, you can view some statistics about, relative to other students in the class, Is their course engagement much lower? And that is through the learning management system, Blackboard. Maybe they've only logged in 12 times, whereas most people in the class have logged in 34 times. It's a starting point for a conversation when they say, "Yeah, I just can't seem to figure this out." So there's statistics like that. And then you can view their enrollment activity. It gives you a heads up if they drop a class, and you can always keep an eye to that to see if that's something important in terms of progression, a prerequisite, or a key thing to proceed in a professional program. And then you can view course performance alerts when faculty members put those in, and again, to talk with students. So we're not going to teach you how to do calendar availability, but we do have training available. So I just wanted to give you kind of an overview of the type of availability that you can create that I thought faculty might find to be useful. And if you are interested, you can always reach out either to the Career and Advising Center or to your lead advisor to help train on an individual or departmental basis to help understand how that might look. So there are both static and dynamic groups. A dynamic group is one whose membership changes based on criteria. So if a student changes their major, they no longer would appear in this group because the dynamics of that were set, the criteria were set so that they would go away if they were no longer in the major. A static group is one that you upload and then edit membership. So if you have admission to a special program or a targeted outreach, you could do course enrollees for office hours. If you wanted to create special time on your schedule where only students in this course could make appointments with you, maybe if they have a final project where they consult with you or something like that. Yeah, and then those dynamic groups, you can make groups that would, give them targeted times. We do that with, say, students who have priority registration. We want to reserve some space at the beginning for them to have advising appointments. Then maybe seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen. You can do groups for academic alerts, those who are not enrolled for next semester as a way to easily reach out and say, hey, let's talk and make sure that you can get enrolled. And again, this would be another way to do a group for office hours or walk-in hours. That you want to have just some open time that students could access you. You can also do events, and there's an RSVP function and an attendance function. And so those can be targeted either to a dynamic or a static group. And then you also have every faculty advisor has a Meet with Me link that's available on the dashboard page that you can send out. If you create some calendar availability, you can send out that link and then they will see the availability that's open to them to schedule. When we talk about viewing advising notes, this is one spot where you can see this. If you were to type in a student's name up at the top of Buys and Advise, it brings up a profile that has all these little tabs at the top. And in the notes, you can then see this student has notes from myself, from another advisor who works with nursing, Kelly Monroe. They are also working with Trio, it appears. And so you can see those. And if you click, then it expands and it shows you the information. Some of these notes are things that have been shared with students. Maybe where it says from email, it means that I had an advising appointment here and I emailed the student through the system and I copied it. I asked it to make it a note as well. If it just had a note, it looks like all of these are from email, but if it just had a note like this schedule had appointment, then sometimes there will be notes in there that weren't shared directly with the student. They may summarize or give points for follow-up, but aren't something that's been specifically shared with the student in that format. This is another way to view course history. And so this is under that course history link. So you can see past courses. Beneath here, there's transfer credits. And then this is what I was talking about with those login days. You can see that this student earned a B. They logged in 87 times, where the average was 74. So you can see that they did fairly well, but maybe this was a harder course for them than it was for some other students. They were really leaning into it. And it can be a point of conversation. Sometimes you have a student who logged in 12 times and they got an A, but that's kind of a consistent pattern for them. Or someone who, logs in more or less relative, and to see how that compares. And then that can give you clues about whether this is something to be concerned about for the current. Obviously, this doesn't have current information because it's for fall of 25, but it does give a view of their current classes. Oh, well, apparently that was animated, but course alerts, this is under the alerts tab on a student's. And so this you can see where different faculty members put in alerts for specific courses and expressed concerns. If you expand this, it gives you more information. And then you can see who followed up on that. And specific areas of concern. So when you hear from Jessie Bauer at various points in the semester, she often invites faculty to put in timely alerts so that we can have some opportunity to talk with them. This is that enrollment activity where it shows whether a student withdrew from a course and then who is not enrolled for fall of 2025. And this is live, you can change that to a different term. Often, obviously, we have like summer and fall enrollment going on at the same time. And then this is that list of students who recently withdrew from a course. And I think if I go back, that's that third tab there. And so it shows you, who they are. If you click on this, it'll take you to their profile, but it shows you what they withdrew from. So then I would know for this student, given their major, whether or not, this is particularly concerning. Is it going to impact progression? Do I want to reach out to them and immediately start to make changes on their 4-year plan? And then again, a very similar format for not enrolled next term.
So another tool that we have available coming soon is called Plan. This is brand new as of this summer. So this is really a live view of what a student's progress towards graduation can be mapped as. So it's not living in someone's Excel file that's only viewable to them on their computer. This is live so that the advisor can work with it, the student can work with it, and it's more collaborative. So again, you can access real-time degree plan information. You can update it as you need to. And it really just helps students understand where they're at in their progress toward their degree. It pulls data directly in from Campus Connection too, so it's always going back to that academic requirements report. And starting now, all students who started in fall 2024 and later have a plan that was created for them by their professional advisor over the summer. So right now, just professional advisors are working in it. We're working on some materials to get students up and running and understanding how to use the platform. And the hope is that all faculty advisors will have access by the spring semester so we can do some training. So it's really just a tool that's used across campus. And it's very nicely linked in Buys and Advise. So again, in students and in advisors profiles, in your normal Buys and Advise page, there is a tab called Academic Planning, and that brings you directly to Plan. Similar to Buys and Advise, there is a homepage with some dashboard information. So advisors can see, is there any abandoned courses and shopping carts and what that might indicate. Maybe those students need some outreach, or maybe I have some incoming students who are assigned to me that I need to make a plan for. Just some basic information here. One really nice feature about Plan is that we can create templates. So these are all based on the curriculum and the catalog that changes year to year. So every year an advisor will go in and make sure that a 4-year template is accurate and can be applied to students, so that there is kind of a basic 4-year plan for every major, but then it can be customized based on what that student's interests are, or if they have other majors or minors, or what credits they're bringing in, so on and so forth. So this is what a sample plan looks like. You can see it's laid out by terms. You can add terms, you can delete terms, you can make summer classes. It's all kind of laid out how you want it and how it might look best for a student. A completed semester is indicated by these green check marks. So again, just helping students keep track of their progress. And then another nice feature is that it connects really neatly with Schedule Planner. So here you can see that these are all courses that are registered. So as students are adding and dropping and changing their schedule, you can see if those are planned courses for them and whether they're in that or not. And then the nice feature for a student is when the registration opens, there's that green schedule button that they can click, and all of these courses will populate over to Schedule Planner for them.
So, one of the things that you can see in plan is a form of this academic requirements report. I will say that kind of the location, I guess, where we feel has the most authority is in the advisement report that's housed in Campus Connection. And so that's where we really refer students to for the official information as to whether they're on track to complete their degree requirements. And so if you go into Campus Connection, if you don't already have a tile, you can create one by searching for request advisement report. And you are able to put in the student's ID and run a report. The first screen that you'll come to is a layout in HTML, and it just kind of gives a list. But there is a PDF format, and I was really proud. I taught my husband, who's a faculty member of 15 years, um, that this existed, and he was so excited. He was like, "I've never seen that before," and I was like, "It exists." So this is actually a PDF, and it is much more visually accessible, I think, especially for students who may or may not be as familiar. It gives you very clear, like, this is a satisfied requirement, and this is the course that was used to satisfy that requirement. And I think we might have a second page that shows. Oh, no, I guess it doesn't show specific courses, but where there's a specific course, this student only had single attempts, but if a student had multiple attempts, it would show that as well. And so that can be a really useful tool. And there is, like I said, within Plan, a format of this. But if you're doing something where the stakes are really high and you want to make sure it's not just kind of a quick progress check, but you want to make sure a student is on track, then this is kind of the authoritative source for information that is generated by registration and records. And then degree audits, each program has an assigned degree analyst in registration and records. And at 60 credits, R&R does reach out and prompt students to complete a degree audit. And you would be copied on the email as a faculty advisor, being notified of the outcome of that. So it's something to just keep an eye on as those emails come through. And then there's an additional check when they get right up to graduation. They do a final audit of those. And so those would be things to keep an eye on if you notice that there have been problems identified. You might reach out to a student and just give them an opportunity to talk with you if they have questions about how to resolve those issues. And sometimes it's just an error or maybe a sub or waiver that hasn't gotten officially put into the system. So they can be easy things to resolve. And certainly we can help if you have questions on how to help a student do that. But it's an important touch point.
All right. Yeah. So, like Hope said, really, as a faculty member, looking to that lead advisor if you have questions on some of these things and all of these different technology tools and reading all of these different things on Campus Connection. And like Caitlin said, right about at add drop period, a good chunk of students are going to start transitioning over to the faculty. And in some areas, some students have maybe had a faculty advisor as like a second advisor all along the way. Some students have just transitioned into a professional program, so they are off and running. But when that happens, our main goal is that the faculty member knows who their new students are, and then the student knows who their new advisor is. We really want a soft handoff. We want that collaborative approach so that students just don't know who their advisor is. We would like them to go to the faculty advisor. We know how important that relationship is and that wealth of different type of knowledge that that faculty has for that student. And then we also have a whole new group of freshmen on our caseload. So we would like those students to go fly with their faculty. But always faculty can seek out that advisor if they need resources. So, and that goes for academic support staff in departments as well. They often are part of that transition. They might help identify which faculty are going on sabbatical. They might help the advisor to know who is not accepting new advisees yet, those types of things. So definitely be involved in that process if you are interested. and giving that input. So what we ask is if you would be, set that availability and advise and advise. That helps with that consistent experience. That's what the students have been used to now for their first at least 2 years. And so we really don't want to take a step backwards and have to, have students looking at pen and paper on the door or Calendly and all these other of avenues. We want that all in buys and advise because then we can all see the notes that the professional advisor has been diligently putting in for the past few years. And you can continue that conversation in your notes then with the students too. You can see their history, what they've been up to, what their interests are, and really keep that continuum going. And that's what they're used to and happy to help. And if you're running into hurdles using it, reach out to the Career and Advising Center so we can look into that or work with your lead advisor and kind of dig in on that. And then those career conversations with faculty are so important. Your connections in industry, your work that you've had in the field, the students they cannot benefit enough from working with the faculty on those types of things. Hopefully all of that is ironed out with the professional advisor of, are they in the right major? Are they adding minors? Those types of things. So when they get to you, it's really digging in on what it is they want to do in their major or grad school or those types of opportunities. So with that, yeah, we are kind of at the end of our time together. So get to know your lead advisor, your professional advisor in your area if you haven't. Familiarize yourself with technology, ask us questions if you have, and we'll linger around for a minute or two, or you can always reach out to us for other questions.
As departments and faculty, like we're in the minimum course requirements, it's really challenging to plan ahead and figure out what kind of courses we should offer and when. For example, I offer a course that we've recently decided to only offer once a year. And to figure out if we were going to make minimum course enrollments, we were really just sort of guessing based on how many students hadn't taken it in the years that we would expect them to have taken it by. Would something like plan be useful for departments to start planning because you can see what you guys are saying?
Yes.
Because I have questions, other questions, but okay, so that's something that would be available to departments.
Yeah, we are just starting to dip our toes in that and learning, but that is kind of the crux of what that platform is. There, it talks to another platform, and you can go in and you can query how many students have, Stat 367 planned for fall 2028.
Okay.
And of course, we want to fine tune that over time, but it gives you a good ballpark. And that's what the advisors are working on with the students is fine tuning that so we can better course plan.
So I know in the past there was always like a day lag between like campus connection and some of these, like what would now be planned, but like the schedule planner and things. Is that gone?
In Buys and Advise itself, the advising platform, when you click course history, there is a day lag there. So that's kind of like that transcript view almost. There is still the data transfer overnight there. But when you log into schedule planner, plan, those are real time.
Then I'm wondering how we can maybe use this stuff for section planning. Like our online class is full, but our in-person class has a lot of seats. Our students like being encouraged. I know, and they choose it out of convenience, not because it's the best way that they learn, but we're trying to avoid just increasing the cap because that doesn't solve the problem, right? Can this stuff be used to help manage that at all?
Yeah, in schedule planner, you can kind of deprioritize classes. We haven't found that it
It has to do that, right?
on the back end. It can be, we found that it may not be functioning how we think, but that's a conversation we need to have. But we could say, if there's these 10 sections, we're going to deprioritize the online one. And hopefully that means the other 9 show up more popularly for schedules, but keep that thought.
I won't ever be a faculty advisor, not in the foreseeable future. But should I still, do you think for faculty in general, it would be good to set calendar availability?
Absolutely.
Just let them email me.
For office hours, start small. see what your students
So-
think.
And it syncs with Outlook.
Yeah,
Will it request an appointment or will the appointment just appear?
it appears.
Oh,
But you set the availability, so you could say, oh, this on a Tuesday afternoon.
and I can say it has to be scheduled like 12 hours before, so it won't be like.
Yeah, and you could put in person, virtual.
Right. Well, thank you, everyone.